All right, today we're going to be using Adobe Illustrator. Here in this video, we are going to be discussing the interface and the workspace in Adobe Illustrator to get you acclimated to everything that it does. What I would like for you to do is to take out paper and take notes on the things that I tell you. We are going to have a pop quiz at some point. I'm not going to tell you when, but you will need to know this information in order to successfully use Adobe Illustrator in any Adobe program for the most part. So please make sure you're paying attention throughout this video. I will make it as quickly as I can. However, I need you to, again, make sure you document everything that we're going through so you understand Adobe Illustrator. So, Adobe Illustrator is one of the most popular vector-based applications there are. It is a powerful design tool that effectively creates graphics and illustrations for all medias, including print, web, and video. Especially for print purposes, Illustrator is ideal for text editing. For example, resumes, presentation handouts. This is also one of the programs that people use when they're creating different fonts. It is also good for layout design, such as posters, stationery, and graphs. Now, we briefly described the difference between vector and raster, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit more again. Before we start to learn Adobe Illustrator, it's important to know the main differences between raster and vector files. So, raster files are mainly used in Photoshop. Vector files are used in Illustrator. The file structure is as follows. So a raster file uses pixels or dots. It's measured by dots per inch, DPI, or pixels per inch, PPI. Vector graphics are usually geometrically based. They use point-to-point shapes. They use paths and Bezier curves. The advantages of raster graphics are shading and gradients are able to be used, texture, photographic detail. The disadvantages of raster graphics are size limitation, meaning resolution restrictions. So it goes by DPI. So 72 DPI is screen resolution. 300 DPI is print resolution. The disadvantages of raster, again, are size limitation or resolution restrictions. You also have less precision, slower processing in larger sizes. And then the advantages of vector are it's precise. You always have precision. There's no size limitation. And it's faster processing, meaning you don't have to wait forever for an image to open. The disadvantages, though, are that you're not as able to do as many really cool shading and gradient things as you can with Photoshop or with a raster-based program. And there's less detail, meaning it's graphic. It's more illustration-based, more, drawing-based versus being photographic. We'll look into this a little bit more so you will have a better understanding of it soon. All right, so the interface of Illustrator, as you see here, I need you all, again, to take notes because you all need to know what we're doing. And you need to document what we're doing in case you forget. And you will forget because it's a lot of information. So when we first started working on the Mac, we talked about the menu bar for Mac and how File, Edit menu is always there and it controls the things you tell the computer to do. However, in Illustrator, the menu bar is this bar right here. And it helps you to navigate the wealth of options through drop-down menus in Illustrator. So as you can see, there are different options here. And just a reminder, when you all go to a drop-down menu and you see a selection that has a triangle pointing to the right, that means there are more options there. And so you can go further into those menus or sub-menus in order to select those. So our Illustrator menu bar consists of File, Edit, Object, Type, Select, Effect, View, Window, and Help. Next, you have the toolbox. Here is your toolbox to the left. My apologies. Your toolbox to the left are the tools of Illustrator Craft. They are the tools for selection, typing, drawing, shape, creation, etc. Here in this bar, you'll see all the options that you have available to you. In addition, at the top, you'll see these double triangles. What that means is that you can change the view of your toolbar. If you click it, it will now change into a double column view instead of a single column view. allowing you to see more of the tools that are available to you or see them in a shorter amount of distance. So if your screen isn't that long and this is too long for you to have to go all the way down, you can switch it and say, all right, I want them right there next to each other so I can tell exactly where everything is. On the toolbar, you'll see different tools here. So you have the selection tool and the direct selection tool. And if you notice, when I hover over them, they tell me what the name of that tool is. And in parentheses, it gives me what the shortcut for that tool is. In addition, any tool that has a little white triangle in the corner means that if I click and hold on that tool, I can see other options there. So here you'll see under the direct selection tool, you also have the group selection tool, which has a slightly different look to it. All right, next we have the control panel. This is your control panel here. As you notice, it has no options there. It's totally blank. And the reason is because we don't have a document open yet. So once I have a document open and I have a tool or a selection made, it will allow me to modify that selected object. So again, your control panel sits below the menu bar and it allows you to modify a selected object. This bar here is the Illustrator application bar. And what this allows you to do, here you'll see Adobe Bridge, which we do not need, so please don't click it because you don't really have the option to use it and it will make your computer glitch. 2, when we start to work with artboards, it'll allow you, this particular menu will allow you to arrange your documents. And here, Essentials is referring to the workspace. Again, this is your workspace. If you notice, when I click on different options here, it changes what our workspace looks like. Now we're in the layout workspace. Here's what painting would look like, printing and proofing, tracing, typography, and the web workspace. For our purposes, we are going to be primarily using the Essentials workspace. If you open up your Adobe window and you see panels just floating like this all over the place, and you want them to go back into the way that it was when you first used Illustrator, the way you would change that is by going to Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials, and that will put your workspace back together the way that we use it. So please note, when I say docked panels, or docked palettes, it means that it's only showing you the icon. When we expand the palettes, it now makes it larger so that you can see whatever option it is, and you'll see the difference once we start working with things here. Your palettes, which are here since we're talking about it, your palettes keep information, tools, and options visible and at the ready while you are working on a file. It's highly adjustable. They can be docked in a palette, far right, like we see here, or they can be expanded. And you can also pull them out to work with them, because when you click on one, as soon as you click on another, it disappears. So to help you, you can bring them out so that they don't disappear and you can use them at your ready. And this is called floating palettes. So anytime a palette is not connected to each other, they are called floating palettes. Again, to reset this, we go to Windows, Workspace, Reset Essentials. The next thing we want to talk about is your document window. So to create a new document here, we would go to File, New, or Command-N, and you'll get a dialog box that looks like this. For our purposes, you will always name your file, last name, first initial, underscore, and the name of assignment or project that we're working on. I'm sorry that I clearly have spelling issues going on today. But again, it's the name of the assignment. Right below it'll say profile. We are mainly going to be using print documents here. If we're using something else, I will let you know ahead of time what profile to select. The number of artboards distinguishes basically how many sheets of paper you're going to use for this project. For our purposes, we'll use 1 for right now, and I'll go around that and show you what the difference is. All right, for sizes, we're going to use letter size. If you notice down here where it says width and height, this is written in points. You can change your units of measure here, and you can select points, picas, inches, millimeters, or centimeters. Please note, the reason why it's default to points is because way back when graphic design was really still being done by hand, points and picas were how we measured. We didn't use inches. And the reason is because if you notice, your fonts are measured in points, which are 1/72 of an inch. So it's 1/72 as a fraction of inches, just so you're aware. You can switch this to inches if you need to, and it will then switch your paper size to 8.5 by 11, which is the normal paper size. You then have orientation. Your orientation can be portrait, or it can be landscaped. Portrait means it's vertical. Landscape means it's horizontal. The bleeding options we will not be using, and we won't use advanced for now because we don't need to change any of those. So you'll click OK. Here you now see your document window. Your document window is basically your open file. The artboard, as you see here, is what you have in the center of your page. Your artboard is pretty much your sheet of paper. Here is where you will create all your artwork. So anything that's here will be printed and visible. Anything that's not will not be. This is where you will create, again, all your graphic work. Here in the black area, this is considered your scratch area. Your scratch area is an area where you kind of put things that you don't need. Like say you draw something and you don't want it in the design, or you need to move some things around, you can move it to the scratch area and adjust it so that it'll help, so that you can go back to it later. And if you need to print to check that particular item, it won't hinder you in any way, shape, or form. So again, that is what is known as your workspace. Now, we can have more than one document open at any given moment. And what that would look like is this would turn into a tab. Instead of looking like this, if I did Command New. Okay, so just so you know, also anytime you do File New or Command New N, you will always get a dialog box. And I'm not going to name this because I just want to show you guys that this will show you your tabbed documents here. Okay, and you all can change the way you view these. You can have it in tabbed, or you can change the way you have it here, and you can make them side by side or right below each other so that you see them all in the same space. And then I can see both my pages of design in the same space, and I can switch back and forth from one to the other in order to work on them. That's something important that you all need to know in case you're working with such things. All right, so next. So here gives you your viewing options for your window down here at the bottom. You can see it tells you what tool you're on right now as well. It tells you what page you're on of your document or what artboard you're on of your document, and it controls your zoom here. You can fit on screen so it takes up more of the page. You can scale it back so that you see it from very far out. You can even blow it up so you see it extremely large if you need to zoom into it. It all depends on what you're working on and how you need to use that window at that time. All right, so now that we have a document open, I told you about the control panel, and I told you how because we had nothing, no document or anything, there was nothing up here. You now see that you have options here. And what these options are for is if I had a drawing, which I will draw now. So with this object here, I can now control, you'll see it says a path is selected. Here controls my fill color, and a fill color is the color of an object. It's the actual color I want something to change. So as you can see, I'm changing the color. You can control the fill color from here on the control panel, or you can control it also right down here on the toolbar. If you double click here on the fill color, it'll give you your color bar option, and you can go through and select whatever colors you want. It doesn't have to just be the ones that are programmed. Also, you can click on stroke and change your stroke at any time and change that color as well if you so choose. Another option the control bar gives you is you can change the stroke, and the stroke refers to the outline around the object. If you don't want an outline, you can make it 0. And actually, you can go down here or right here on the control panel and click on this none, and it will take the outline from around it. To show you a little bit more about the stroke options, I'm going to leave it on for now. So here's my stroke panel. If I go through, I can make this a 12-point stroke, and you see the outline becomes bigger. The stroke can also be controlled right over here on your palette. Click the stroke palette, and you will also be able to control what size you want this. As you can see, I can play with it as much as I want and make it whatever size I want. Here it's asking, how do I want my line to look? What width do I want it? I can play with this, and you see it then looks more like a brush stroke. So here is wider, and then it gets slimmer on the other side. You can make it basic. You can make it look like a pencil or charcoal pencil or such. You can even change it to one of these other lines. It is pretty much your choice how you choose to use this. We won't change this too much right now because we're not at that point yet, and I need you all to get started, but I just wanted to explain it to you as well. The other thing you're allowed to do on the control bar is I can control the size of this box. Right now you see it's 3.4 by 3 inches. I can change this and make it a 5-inch width to a 6-inch height or depth, and then my box will change, or my square will change. To move this object, the select tool will allow me to do that. So the select tool allows me to move objects around. I know a lot of you are wondering what the difference is between the direct selection tool and the selection tool. So notice when I mess with the selection tool, I can move the object in and out, change the size. However, the direct selection tool will allow me to actually edit specific points. So if I go in and I just select this point, I can now start to change this object around and change what its shape actually is. Again, you can only do that with the direct selection tool. That also allows me to work with grouped objects as well, where I can only move the one object I'm selecting instead of the whole group, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. All right, something that I forgot to go over were artboards. Again, here are where your artboards will appear. You see it says artboard 1. We only have one artboard in each page. If you look here, if you ever needed to change the size of your artboard, which is again your size of the paper, you would go to File, Document Setup. You would receive a dialog box that looks like this, and to edit your artboard, you would click Edit Artboards. You would then be able to go in and select or drag in the sides of this artboard in order to edit the size. And then once you hit enter, you would see this pop back up. The artboard options would come back up, and you could rename that artboard. So I might want to name this Wham. This is just some random name. And to exit the edit options, I would hit escape. So again, if I hit enter, it takes me to the option to rename that particular artboard, and as you can see, it renamed it here. Another way to rename your artboard is by clicking here twice and changing the name there. To edit your artboard size again, another way, which is way number 2, you have Document Setup. Document Setup will bring you to the same exact dialog box we saw when we went to File, Document Setup, and again, you can edit your artboards from there. Another way to do that is to click on the little square object here in the corner of your artboard, and again, you will be able to edit your board. You can go to Artboard Options as well and do that again. So, moving on from there, if I had another artboard, now say I want to add a new artboard, I can go right down here to where the artboards are, and I can click New Artboard. And then my document will now have 2 artboards. And let me zoom out so you all can see this. So now, here are my 2 artboards side by side. I can also change this around if I want to and move the artboard from here and shift it down if I so chose to. It's all in how you want your stuff to be set up. All right, so I hope this helps you with the basics of Illustrator. If you have any questions, please feel free to rewatch this video or come and ask me if no one can help you and you can't help yourself because you don't understand what it is that I did today. Have a great day and join me in my next video.